The most powerful force in the Empire is the Sky Knights. This is the place where only the most talented knights and wizards can enter, a place where members are ranked according to strict skill-based systems. Age, gender, status are meaningless, as the knights and wizards are judged by only their abilities. Among the knights and the wizards, the best 10 are bestowed the title of Imperial Knight. In the current generation, there was a man who was the strongest of all time. His name is Senoc Aspyn Blacknight, the rank 1 leader of the Imperial Knights and captain of the Sky Knights. Despite being the only duke in the Empire, he is the youngest ever to become captain. Aspyn is the lieutenant of the Knights, the rank 2. Everyone disliked her despite her rank because of her ugly appearance. She was told that she will not be allowed to take her role in the upcoming victory ceremony. She protested that everyone except the captain competed for the role, which she became the winner. However, the boss explained that she should not show up because of the scar on her face. He said that the captain would be a more suitable candidate. Aspyn asked if she could wear a mask to cover up for her scar, but she was told to stay quiet. Her boss said that the dignity of the royal family must be maintained and that there is nothing she could do about it since it's been decided. Davian Shear, the rank 6 leader, walked up to Aspyn. He said he was surprised to hear that Aspyn had lost her place in the victory ceremony in spite of her bravery and victory against the other knights. He then tells Aspyn the captain will do a good job in her stead. Aspyn remembered her past life when she was a child. She lost her family in a fire incited by an unknown culprit. After the fire incident, Aspyn discovered that she had a great talent for swordsmanship. Back then, if she had been acknowledged by everyone, she might have been treated differently. The only reason why she was overshadowed despite being talented is because of Senoc, who happens to be a wall that she can never surpass. She really hates him, and she wished that she could have the opportunity to prove herself against Senoc and his abilities. She wondered how a man could be so perfect that it would cause her despair, but she doesn't want to live with an inferiority complex for the rest of her life. The story of the Sky Knights being ranked strictly by their abilities is now a thing of the past. Most of the powers now reside in the hands of nobles. Aspyn thought that it would only be a matter of time before the honorable place gets rotten as the ignorance of the nobles gets stronger. Aspyn remembered that she doesn't have any family or relatives, so day after day she has been thinking about the meaning of life, feeling she has no place as a member of the Sky Knights any longer, and she decides to have a duel with the captain before taking her leave. She felt she could put an end to her hatred through swordplay. Captain Senoc asks if Aspyn really wants to have a duel with him. He was surprised to see her talking and moving so close to him, and notices that Aspyn's hair is messy. It was raining outside the training hall. Senoc asked if they could postpone the duel, but Aspyn said that she doesn't hate the rain, and she appreciates the captain for being punctual. Then the duel begins. Aspyn decides to focus on Senoc's wrists, but Senoc overpowers her and asks her to admit defeat. However, Aspyn decides to calm down and think positively. She believes that she'll be able to stand up again. She believed that she had a last chance to have a duel with Senoc and that she could beat him. It was the last crucial moment she had to prove her worth, but she dropped her sword and threw in the towel. Then she walked along with Senoc. Senoc was a man she really liked. He was a figure that she'd always respected, but the inferiority complex she had developed because the hatred of the many people towards her had stopped her from seeing a good-looking and kind-hearted man. Alas, she still had her sword with her. That was all in imagination, and she's determined to make her fight with the captain her final fight. She focused on Senoc's wrist, and she aimed for a cut on his side, but she realized that Senoc had always been the type to never let down his guard. Suddenly, Aspyn's sword changed to what looked like lightning, and she got Senoc on his knees. She pointed her sword onto him and asked if he'd blamed the weather. The captain stood up and walked away from the seemingly triumphant Aspyn, who was happy to have gotten a win out of the hundreds of duels she had with him. She placed her hand on the part of the shoulder where she had been struck as the pain ached. She felt that there was no point in going anywhere because she had no family to welcome her home. She sees a rabbit walking aimlessly on the road as a carriage with a horse was approaching, about to run it over. She decides to dive in and cover the rabbit amidst a violent collision with the horse and carriage. The rider halted. He drew closer with the aim of checking if Aspyn is alive or dead. She was satisfied with the victory as a knight, but she felt unhappy because her life was so short, but she didn't know death would give her new life. Aspyn found herself lying down in the woods. She felt so thirsty that she walked up to some water and was shocked to see that she had a young face and body. She lamented over the loss of her well-trained body, her honor and strength as a knight, as she felt noticeably slower. Then a small rabbit asked if she had come to her senses, but wait, this is no rabbit, but instead a creature that identified himself as Lepus, the king of sacred beasts. Aspyn remembered that Lepus was the same rabbit she had saved from the carriage before her death. She asked if the rabbit was the one responsible for her sudden transformation from a warring knight to an innocent girl. She grabbed Lepus and asked what he had done to her body. Lepus explained she died when the carriage crashed into her, and that he gave her a new body. He then explained that she was destined to die on that day regardless of whatever action she would have taken. The body he gave to Aspyn would only disappear if he stopped supplying it power, and he asked if she would like to continue living. Aspyn replied that she didn't want to die, but instead live a quiet and peaceful life. Lepus tells her he'll only agree to her requests if she fulfills his. Originally, Lepus ruled over the sacred beasts from a different dimension, but one day, a hole was drilled between these dimensions and the beasts escaped. Lepus tells her she can only keep her body if she helps him recapture them. He then explains that they've been brought back 18 years into the past. Aspyn was thinking about how she was going to live in her new world when Lepus directs her to a nearby village. She thought about how she will have to live with the supernatural rabbit and found it difficult to believe she was sent back in time. Aspyn asked Lepus if he could make her look like an adult, but he doesn't have the power to do that at the moment. She then hears a young boy crying in the forest, and she finds out he's handsome and looked so much like the captain she knew before she died. Thinking there's no way this could be Senoc because her captain was not the type to be meek or emotional. She told the young boy to stop crying, but admittedly, she's not good with kids. She asks Lepus to do something about this, but apparently the king of beasts is only visible to her. We then learn the boy is being bullied by another group of boys his age who are also being trained under the same sword teacher. The young boy said that his bully is a talented swordsman and his teacher's precious student, and his teacher didn't care about him since he was too scared to wield swords. Aspyn remembered that there are guys like the bullies during her times in the Knight's Order. These guys would pick on weak people and commoners, and they would deliberately bully them. As the lieutenant, she would never allow any act of injustice to go unpunished, and that was the reason why the high-ranking nobles hated her. She said the jerk who hits the boy is to be blamed and to fight back whenever they beat him up. The boy thanked her for the advice, and he said that it is impossible for him to fight back. Then the bullies arrived. Lepus tells Aspyn to prepare for a fight, but she wonders how she'll be able to fight in her tiny, fragile form. However, Lepus says she only stumbled earlier because she has not yet adapted to her body. The young boy's bullies abused him and said that their teacher gave them the permission to beat him up. Aspyn perceived that the young boy must be a knight candidate for him to have been surrounded by 3 mean people, so she stood up to protect him. She said that the bully should fight with him one-on-one, since it's a disgrace for a knight to fight an opponent who has lost their will, and that they're cowards not befitting of the knight title if they only gang up on others. "What are you saying? Damn bitch," one of the bullies said roughly. As another one went to strike Aspyn, she wondered how on earth a kid could say such words. She defeated the bullies with much ease, only using a stick to strike all 3 of them, and when they left, they gave the typical line vowing revenge against Aspyn and the young boy. Aspyn was surprised that her body could move swiftly, and Lepus told her that her ability to adapt to her body had helped her to be able to use a sword by default. Then she turned to the boy and she asked if he was alright. The latter said he was fine, and he thanked Aspyn for saving him. He said that she was so cool because he'd never seen his bullies beaten before. For compensation, Aspyn asked for a place to stay, leaving the boy wondering if she'd gotten kicked out of her house. Just like I'd have to kick you for not liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Come on, I'll be making recaps for shojo anime, manga, and manhwa like this one, sharing plenty of fun and exciting stories with all of you, so please hit that subscribe, please! Also, follow me at x.com at comfy_tea. I'd love to share fan art I get there, and other exclusive things I'm planning, like IRL stuff and maybe even some song covers. I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, Aspyn and the boy arrived at a bungalow. Aspyn could see that the simplicity of the house paled in comparison to the boy's clothes, but she was more surprised that the boy was called a young master. After a short time, different kinds of delicacies were set before Aspyn and the boy. The boy thanked Aspyn for helping him, but she told him she was only able to help him at that time and that the bullies might come against him in the future. Aspyn asked the boy's name, and she was surprised to hear the name Senoc Blacknight. At first, the name sounded familiar, but later she was shocked to realize that the boy bears the same name as the captain of the Knights. No, he is the captain of the Knights. and she was surprised to see that Captain Senoc was a weakling when he was a child. After that, the meal ended. She found it difficult to believe that she had gone back to the era where the captain of the knights was completely different. She then began having thoughts of returning to her original self, but Lepus warned her to never try searching for her original body. Lepus tells her she must never meet with her original self because both her original body and this new one share the same soul, and if they were to meet, her current soul would erase from this dimension. Lepus promises to grant all her wishes if only she could find the sacred beasts. Regardless, Aspyn was happy that since she had come to have a new life, not being hated or scorned by anybody, she decides to inquire more on the given quest and asks Lepus about the sacred beasts. Sacred beasts are creatures that have enormous power, ranking from village level to wiping out entire countries. There was a dimension in which Lepus gathered and controlled the most dangerous of the beasts. Lepus was in charge of that dimension but can't use his powers much here because this dimension constrains him, thus he needs Aspyn's help. He tells her to catch sacred beasts that have escaped before they cause trouble. The next day, she met Senoc at a manor. She asked if he is taking the knight training lessons. The owner of the manor, named Count Iset, is apparently a vassal of Duke Blacknight. However, because he was a vassal with no power, he abandoned the Senoc manor. Senoc asked if Aspyn would like to see the training ground, so she decided to take a look around so that she could gather information about the sacred beasts. Aspyn and Senoc went to a familiar place and they saw the guys that bullied him the previous day, but they ran away as soon as they saw Aspyn. She then asked if she could be indebted to Aspyn one more time because she had nowhere to stay. So Senoc replied that she could stay with him as long as she wished, which surprised her, but she was more surprised to see that Senoc did not ask anything about her identity. She tells him her name is Pin, and tells Senoc she wants to help in dealing with the bullies as payment for letting her stay with him. And even though Senoc was a little doubtful, she told him to trust her. Tears of joy flowed down from Senoc's eyes. No one has ever offered to help him. Aspyn remembered that the captain of the night in her past life was cold, but had always given kind words to her. She remembered when the captain visited her when she was injured. The captain told her she had been doing well, and he had told her to speak up when she needed any help. At that time, she ignored the captain because she hated him, but she always remembered his words. It's funny how this time, she's able to pat the head of her little crying captain. Remembering that the same person she gave head pats to was Captain Senoc in her previous life, it gave her some mixed feelings. She then noticed this was the training ground for swordsmanship and joked about enrolling in it as to learn as well. She sensed that it wouldn't be difficult to protect Senoc from the sidelines, but the fact that he cannot wield a sword was a mystery to Aspyn. She thought that there must be something going on. Senoc tells Aspyn his father commanded him to stay close to the manor. Aspyn asked if Senoc would like to go around the town with her since she wants to get more information about the sacred beasts. She holds his hands, looking him straight in the eyes, telling him that if no one cares about him, all he has to do is walk out and meet new people who love and will care about him. Aspyn did not want to get close to Senoc, but she did all that she had done in order to repay his kind deeds. Aspyn gets lost in her thoughts, thinking about the past, and Senoc wonders if everything is alright. While they're speaking, Lepus raises an alarm telling Aspyn that there is an emergency. He could sense the energy of a sacred beast in town, so Aspyn tries to leave. But Senoc tells her he will be meeting with his instructor very soon. Aspyn asks if she could come along with him, and then Senoc replies that outsiders won't be able to meet with the instructor easily since there are a lot of people coming from far away to learn from him. He's very prestigious. He decides he's going to ask whether he needs to attend the training or not because he wants to go along with her. Aspyn is surprised at what Senoc is saying and finds it difficult to adapt to his strangely innocent behavior. Senoc noticed the look on Aspyn's face. He asked if he might be a burden to her. He just wanted to know if she liked him. She replied that she was just thinking about something else. And then she told him not to worry about anything and that she doesn't hate him. She says that she'll go back to town and come back later at night to see Senoc. In town, she asks Lepus the location of the sacred beasts. Lepus gave her several directions which are completely useless, because anywhere a sacred beast has been will leave residual energy. Lepus explains the power of the sacred beast is what humans refer to as miracles. Even with snow beginning to fall on a bright, sunny day, the residents of the town don't even look surprised. Aspyn walks towards a young man and asks if the snow usually falls at this time of year. The man could tell she was a visitor and explained that snowfall is a phenomenon that has been happening in their region lately. It just suddenly snowed at odd times more recently. He said mages arrived from the capital and declared that there was no problem. But the most amazing thing is that there is nothing dangerous about this snow at all. He had Aspyn taste it, and she was surprised that the flakes were salty. And the man said the first time it snowed, however, it tasted very sweet. Whenever the snow fell, the kids loved it. Lepus explained that there's a sacred beast called the Snow Weaver, who produced the ice according to his emotions. Whenever he's happy, the ice tastes sweet. Sad, the ice tastes salty, and whenever he's angry, the ice is hot. She asked if the sacred creature likes or hates anything. Lepus answered that the sacred beast likes human food, but isn't really sure what Ice Weaver likes in detail. Lepus felt a faint aura coming from the alley. Aspyn goes close to the alley and sees a young boy surrounded by two robbers who are trying to mug him for money. The boy starts lighting up his magic and defeats them. Then Aspyn arrives to finish them off. The mage's opponents were defeated before Aspyn arrived at the scene. Aspyn requested to know the mage's identity. He said his name is Cade, and that he is a magician. Aspyn remembered that the mages use magical powers and they belong to the Sky Knights in her former timeline. The Sky Knights is an association of mostly knights and few magicians. The mages who joined the Heavenly Knights wandered or often worked at the towers. Cade felt a strange, lovely sensation, and he guessed it must have been some kind of magic nearby. Aspyn lied to Cade, saying that it was the first time she was meeting a magician, and she was so curious. Then they exchanged introductions. With the help of his magic, he picked up the stick she used and wondered if she was a little too young to be wielding it like a weapon. Cade said he'd been working with his master, the Archmage. Then, Aspyn's memory recalled this boy to be Cade Raikune, the future Archmage. When she assumed the post of lieutenant, the Emperor of the Empire collapsed due to an unknown magic disease. At the time, the mage Cade appeared and he played a crucial part in the Emperor's recovery with his magic. After the Emperor's recovery, Cade suddenly disappeared, and no matter how hard the Emperor searched, they could never find him. She was even tasked at some point to search for Cade, and is surprised to see him right in front of her. She thought it would be good for her to make friends with Cade. She asked him about his reason for being in town, and it turns out he was in town to collect some special treasures. Maybe a harp that could create waves, or a rock that could turn into food, or even a treasure that could travel through time, which alarmed Aspyn. Cade mentions he was visiting the town because it suddenly started snowing. Then, Lepus announced the arrival of the Snow Weaver. Aspyn wondered if this cute little thing really was a sacred beast. The Snow Weaver runs away. Aspyn and Lepus chase after him. Cade calls out to Aspyn as he wants to meet her again, but they dash off. At the same time, at the Knight's training center, the three bullies surround Senoc. They make fun of him because he could not even use a wooden sword. One of the bullies says he's going to break his legs since Aspyn is not around. So Senoc tries to hold out his wooden sword. He summoned courage amidst the loud laughter of the bullies, who found him to be stupid. But Senoc swings the wooden sword and surprises them. The leader of the bullies ordered his subordinates to deal with Senoc. Aspyn and Lepus continue to look for the Snow Weaver. Lepus says that the Snow Weaver is hiding because he hates Lepus. And Aspyn asks why Snow Weaver hates him, but Lepus replies he has no idea, which pisses her off. Aspyn said if he knew that the Snow Weaver was in town, she would have to catch up with him. She felt that she needed a proper sword like the one she had in her previous life. She went back to meet Senoc, who had been beaten by the bullies. Senoc stood up from the ground with tears in his eyes. He told Aspyn that he wants to be strong. He was the most talented knight in the whole empire. His enemies saw him as a nightmare in their dreams, but he was far from that reality now. She asked Senoc about his reason for desiring to be strong. Aspyn told him to wipe his tears away. She said that Senoc is going to become stronger sooner or later, and concluded that the Senoc she knew is different than the original one in her timeline. Aspyn did not find the sternness, firmness, or rigidity of the captain within him. Aspyn said that she wants to help him, but she also needs his help. She tells him she's going to make him strong, and to not go for any training outside of her because she's going to be his teacher. Aspyn asked if they could get something to eat, so during mealtime, she described the Snow Weaver as a kid with curly white hair and horns, and wearing trousers. And Senoc had been drawing the image of the Snow Weaver, but the image she drew was very funny. She asked Senoc about his reason for living in a secluded place instead of the castle. Senoc explained that the castle is so cold and hard to bear. The people in the castle would torment him to the point that he would wonder how long he could even survive if he continues to live as a weak person. He thought that he might become useless in his current state. Aspyn realized that there are more people that need to drink her cup of wrath. Thinking there's no way that she and the future captain would have the same relationship, she reasoned that she would be able to pay Senoc for his kindness in feeding her and giving her a place to sleep. She advised that they both go and play and also find something delicious to eat. Senoc reminds Aspyn about his training, but she replies that it won't be bad for the both of them to rest for the day before training. because missing training for one day isn't going to make him weak. We see Snow Weaver walking along the road as he contemplates his master Lepus as evil. He thought about the encounter he had with Aspyn, and it was difficult for him to let go of that experience. It began snowing heavily, and unexpectedly again, some people were looking for explanations to the occurrences in town. The Lord is expected to take action since the snow had covered the whole town during the summer. The imperial family said that magicians will be coming to examine the whole situation as well, and the people are advised to wait a little bit. Aspyn remembered that Lepus said the snow tastes different depending on Snow Weaver's emotions. At that moment, she tasted the snow and it was spicy and bitter. Lepus said that the Snow Weaver is more enraged, and that the bitterness of the snow represents the Snow Weaver's deep sorrow. Aspyn asked what Lepus thought could be the Snow Weaver's reason for cursing him. Lepus thinks that the Snow Weaver is just a fickle kid. Then, Aspyn nearly falls on the icy ground, but Senoc grabs her hand and drew her to himself in what turned out to be a lovely embrace, and she found his strength to be very impressive. Aspyn felt that Senoc's physical abilities are good, despite the fact that it's difficult for him to use a sword. With the snow and the city's food supplies destroyed, she can't find this beautiful scenery to be romantic. She then asks if Lepus could show himself to other people, and he definitely can. She then has Lepus show himself to Senoc, who is completely surprised to see the cute sacred beast. Aspyn explains Lepus is the reason she's been looking for the Snow Weaver in town. And even with Aspyn telling Senoc not to be scared of Lepus, Lepus can't help but feel there's more danger with Senoc's obsessive traits. With Senoc easily accepting Aspyn's explanation about sacred beasts, she couldn't help but worry about Senoc's safety, since he's so believing. Elsewhere, Snow Weaver spots a mother and daughter playing in the snow. He thinks of Lepus and gets angry that the master of beasts is nothing like a parent. Snow Weaver decides to attack the family, but Aspyn narrowly saves the two. Snow Weaver sees the family happy and safe, and then he sees Lepus. He decides to go on the attack, but Aspyn deflects everything using a stick. The ice magic focuses on Senoc, so she protects him too. "Look, Aspyn, there's a sword over there," Senoc said, pointing in the opposite direction. "I will be borrowing this," as she took hold of the blade. As it was expected, Senoc and Aspyn cornered the Snow Weaver. A barrel was beside Senoc, so he threw it at the beast. Aspyn then kicks him down, and he transforms into a cute little creature like Lepus. She then picks up Snow Weaver and ties him up with a rope. As Aspyn was thinking about the reason for the sudden transformation of the Snow Weaver, Lepus explains that sacred beasts revert to the original body form whenever they experience a shock. And then she asks him, "Why are you always in that steamed bun body?" But Lepus disagrees with that statement. With Snow Weaver staring angrily, it begins to snow heavily. Lepus warns Snow Weaver to stop using his powers excessively, as he might wipe out of existence and even fade away. "It doesn't matter if I disappear or not. You wouldn't care either way," the Snow Weaver screams as he undoes his bindings. He then pushes Aspyn and runs away. Then Senoc appears on top of Aspyn, trying to see if she's alright. She asks if the Snow Weaver had escaped, and thanks Senoc for helping her earlier, telling him he's amazing. "You are not useless at all, and you've done a good job," Senoc said as he was trying to encourage Aspyn. He held her hands and was trying to pull her up from the ground. The more she looked at Senoc, the more the captain's image faded away. As she called Senoc her best friend, Lepus reminds Aspyn that the boy is destined for misfortune. A week later, the snow continues to fall, except more seriously than before, and Snow Weaver was nowhere to be found. Most of the townsfolk adapted, but not everyone is satisfied with having snow at odd times. Many people are angry with the whole situation. Aspyn felt the knights might arrive soon, and had no chance of forgiving the perpetrator, Snow Weaver. Aspyn questioned once again if Lepus knew about the reason why Snow Weaver was destructive in nature. He replies he has no idea, and then plops himself on Aspyn's head. He explains that beasts have no concept of family. Yet Snow Weaver was always obsessed with being human, even begging Lepus at times for a parental embrace. Perhaps it was because Lepus would pick up Snow Weaver and tame his powers, which caused Lepus to make a stupid comment about being a mom. Aspyn worries that the Snow Weaver will be arrested as soon as the sorcerer arrives. She said she doesn't know how beasts would be treated, thinking that Snow Weaver might be used as an experiment or even killed instantly. Lepus kept quiet. Then Aspyn assumed that they have to go back. Senoc had been waiting for them for a while. In order to save time, Aspyn suggests that they split up and find the beast. A week later, they reconvene with no progress. Aspyn still praises Senoc for his hard work, and noticing the sword on his hip, she's proud of him for carrying the sword he was once afraid of. Aspyn takes a look at Senoc. She could see that he was cute and lovely, but she reminds herself that she was admiring someone who was her captain in her former world. But she can't deny the fact that she now sees two personalities in the person of young Senoc. She moved closer to him and touched his hair, and was convinced that this Senoc was kind. Aspyn and Senoc go about asking people if they've seen a little kid with white hair. A woman said that the person they are looking for is in the alley. Senoc and Aspyn go to the alley. They find someone who looks similar to Snowweaver. That person happens to be facing the opposite direction, so Aspyn charges towards the person with a triumphant shout. But as that boy turns his face, Aspyn felt a huge surge of energy coming towards her. Alas, it was Cade the magician. Aspyn apologized for her mistake. She said she mistook Cade for someone else and attacked him accidentally, but it's alright since he keeps her afloat with his magic. He laughs and says that Aspyn doesn't look like the type of person who would suddenly attack others. She explains that they're actually looking for Snowweaver, who is about their age, and Cade has a similar complexion. Cade says that the alley is quite dark and she's likely to mistake him for someone else, but now he wants to know more about the boy that's with her. Aspyn introduces Senoc as her friend, who's helping her look for Snowweaver. Cade then offers to help them look as well, and she replies she's grateful for Cade's kind gesture and asks if he could keep everything they discuss a secret, and he agrees. Aspyn asks if Cade has heard of the sacred beasts, and Cade asks if Aspyn is talking about creatures from another dimension. His teacher once taught him that the world is divided into different dimensions, so there must be one where sacred beasts exist. He said that sometimes creatures from other worlds can appear, as well as humans from different time periods. He says that the divine beast is still a concept that a sorcerer finds difficult to understand, so why would Pin know about them? Actually, the person I'm chasing after is... Oh, there he is. Catch him and let's go, Aspyn said, as she was trying to reveal the identity of the Snowweaver to Cade and also deflect his question. She saw someone that looks like the Snowweaver and told Senoc to run after that person. They then see the presence of the Knights, probably sent to deal with the source of the ongoing snow. Aspyn then decides to tail the Knights, as they might have better resources for finding Snowweaver. Then the Knights split into two directions, so Cade goes one direction himself, while Aspyn and Senoc go the other. Cade said that he has cast a trace spell on Aspyn, so that he would be able to send a magic signal if he finds the Snowweaver on his side in case he spots the horned boy. As they follow the Knights, it turns out that they also lose the trail of the sacred beast. Aspyn wishes that Lepus could sense the Snowweaver's movement, but it seems that the Snowweaver uses powers to avoid being noticed once again. With Snowweaver thinking he's gotten away, Aspyn triumphantly announces, "It's game over. You can't run away anymore," Aspyn says as she flips over to the front of him. Snowweaver is determined to escape, so he makes a large ice crystal. Aspyn's concern is that if it crashes, it'll cause too much attention and attract the Knights. She decides to put her life on the line. As the crystal falls down on her, she splits it with her sword to prevent it from crashing. She then grabs Snowweaver, throwing him to the ground while pointing her blade at him. Senoc announces the Knights are coming. As the loud footsteps draw closer, Cade offers to help. He casts a barrier on the ground and makes it impossible for the Knights to see or hear them, meaning Aspyn doesn't have to hold back. With her strongest technique displayed, Cade remarks no one of this current era has powers like hers, remarking Pin to be a genius. With Snowweaver tied up, Aspyn admits that it's been a long time since she had been able to warm up like this. Senoc thought that they would need to break down a part of the wall. Till that time, he'd always thought of swords as scary weapons used by scary people, like his father. But he suddenly realized that the sword is not only a terrible and cruel thing, but can also be extremely beautiful. Aspyn asked if Senoc is alright, and Senoc says that he is fine, and he's grateful for being able to use a sword. For the first time, he felt no pain and no fear, and confessed that Aspyn is amazing. This caused her to remember her former captain who had said the same thing, the man who had once told her to be proud of herself, and that the only vice captain in his heart was her. Aspyn remembered Captain Senoc's words, "You should have confidence in yourself as my vice captain," a repressed memory of him walking away after praising her. Cade tells them they've got to leave, so they head somewhere more secluded. The Snowweaver doesn't feel like talking, being interrogated by Aspyn. Aspyn then gives Senoc a paddle he can use to whack Snowweaver in case he runs. She said she doesn't want the Snowweaver to run away again after all that she'd done to capture him. Lepus kept quiet and did not say anything about this. The Snowweaver once again tells Aspyn to kill him, but she doesn't care what he thinks. She asks Lepus if he wants the Snowweaver dead, but Lepus tells her she may not, because Snowweaver belongs to his dimension. She then asks what they should do if he runs away again, and Lepus tells her they just have to catch him again. This leaves Snowweaver perplexed, as he thought Lepus hated him. However, Lepus explains he doesn't hate him at all. This is when Snowweaver understood Lepus must really care about him, and Aspyn explains that even though she hasn't known Lepus for long, Lepus definitely cares about him in his own way, which causes Snowweaver to cry and jump into Aspyn's arms in beast form. Seeing the dust settled, Cade wants to know more about Lepus. A week later, since there was no snow, people stopped worrying about trying to find the cause. It seems like all the problems have finally been resolved. Aspyn begins the swordsmanship training with Senoc now. Since Senoc had the fear of swords, Aspyn plans to get him used to fighting with them. The Snowweaver, Lepus, and Aspyn end up becoming close friends, and the maid was excited to see Senoc and his new friends all playing together. All while Snowweaver and Lepus call Senoc for being a weakling and for getting knocked down during his training. Kate asked if the Snowweaver is a kind of mythical creature that asked for her help, and her reason for staying at Senoc's place while she was looking for the mythical creatures. Aspyn replied that she has to stay with Senoc since she has no place of her own. Then Cade offers his place and his magic skill to search for the beasts. Cade says that she will also get the help of his teacher without giving too much information, causing Aspyn to light up at the offer. She thought the idea sounded good, but Senoc cried, telling her to stay with him. She tells Cade she can't, and Cade takes his leave. Luckily for Senoc, Aspyn did promise to help him in return for letting her stay. Wondering where the next beast is, we see a small silhouette mentioning the area smells like Snowweaver. The next day, Aspyn learns from Cade that some wizards are coming to town. Even though the snow stopped, a wizard from the Sky Guard is being sent to conduct an investigation, which worries Aspyn. Cade told Aspyn to stop worrying about the whole situation. He tells her that things will be fine as long as they don't find out that it's the doing of a mythical creature. The Snowweaver, now known as Weavy, asked if anything was bothering Aspyn. Aspyn asked if Weavy knew about the other mythical creatures. He replies that when he opened his eyes to this world, he saw two other sacred beasts with him. He said one went to look for a big bolt of lightning, while the other went to go look for flowers. He said that he was the only one left behind, and narrated how he wandered around till he came to the city. Thus, they must all be scattered in different areas. The head instructor went to meet with Count Bisette, who was left in charge of Senoc to make him useful for a reward. Senoc's instructor informs the Count that Senoc has not been attending training for a while now, so the Count decides to take matters in his own hands. At the training ground, Senoc asked how Aspyn got her swordsmanship skills, and she replies she was born talented, which was a joke that Senoc took seriously. She actually learned from a master when she was young, a retired Sky Knight who might be serving the Sky Guard right now in this time period. She mentions that there was a genius at the same place she trained, a genius so talented no matter how hard she competed, she could never reach. She used to think she hated him, but admits that secretly she might have been looking up to him this whole time. Senoc wonders if she liked that genius, so she coughs and laughs, wiping the tears of laughter, saying there's no way she'd like that guy, causing Senoc to smile. But then she remembered a time when he had came to her bedside, remarking how deeply she slept, and this caused her to get red flustered. Then suddenly, the boys who usually bullied Senoc arrived, and Aspyn drew her sword. One of the boys stops to say they're just here to relay a message from their master, and they learn the instructor is looking for Senoc. Aspyn thought Senoc had gotten permission from his instructor to stop going for training. She points the blade at the boys and questions the authenticity of their words. However, the main bully promises on his knight's honor he's telling the truth. The bully then calls Senoc a coward, and Senoc tugs at Aspyn, telling her he's going to go. He wants to tell his assigned instructor that Pin is his teacher now, causing her heart to go badum? Badum? She wonders what that feeling was. With her concern growing for Senoc, she decides to follow him. She tails them trying to hide in the bushes, and learns from Lepus that he can just make her invisible to other humans. She asks him why he never mentioned this before, and when he admits he was just being lazy, the two bicker a bit. She spots the instructor yelling at Senoc, and the berating reminded her of how the other knights had treated her. Then we see the Count, telling Senoc he's going to be abandoned forever if he keeps acting like this. Aspyn can't stand to see this go on. As she gets up to confront them, she realizes there's not much she can do while looking like a child, so Lepus offers to make her appear like an adult as a thanks for helping with Snowweaver. As Count Iset tells Senoc he's going to attend classes every day from now on, the adult Pin appears and announces she's the guardian of Senoc, causing Count Iset to shrivel back, thinking the Duke sent another noble to look after Senoc. Pin also announces she's Senoc's teacher, and by the looks of it, better suited than the current sword teacher. Of course, the instructor hired by the Count feels insecure, especially when Pin announces she'll show him how it's done, and he just senses this aura of strength that's beyond him. He decides to win in the only way he possibly could, which is to test her teaching abilities by having his student duel Senoc. They agree if Senoc wins, he'll be free to do whatever. But the next day, Senoc is completely depressed. Kate arrives, noticing the mood is a little gloomy. When Senoc asks if he fails, would Pin leave him, she consoles him with the reminder she has no plans of leaving until he's comfortable with the sword. After all, he's her first student. This gives Senoc the determination to win. As Cade overlooks the two, we learn he had actually seen Pin earlier after she transformed into an adult. He wonders how she used magic without being a mage, and with so many questions in his mind, he wondered if he should tell his master about this, but knows she's going to be confined to the magic tower if he did. A month passes, and as the duel is about to begin, we see the training Senoc had gone through. Aspyn acknowledges Senoc's talents, as he's able to easily destroy dozens of training dummies. She felt a month was too short to solve all of Senoc's issues, so she had Cade place a spell on him that only let him see things he liked in the drill hall during the duel. He saw flowers, grass, clear skies, animals, and Pin. Also, he would no longer see his fears. When Senoc clashes with the other boy, he wonders if the bully had always been this weak. Then with a lunge forward, he knocks the sword from his opponent and points his blade, claiming victory. As the two boys continue to look at each other, Senoc remarks that the bully wasn't such a big deal after all. With Senoc's talent displaying fruition, the Count thinks to himself he must tell Duke Blacknight, and also fired the current instructor. We then move to 18 years in the future, where the other Sky Knights are talking crap about Aspyn. And even though they bash the hardworking and talented Aspyn, they praise their Captain Senoc, discussing rumors of how his father left him alone in the mountains to train, where he earned his title of prodigy, and wishing at the same time that Aspyn had been sent there instead, hoping someone finds their lieutenant's corpse. Behind them was a mage named Chloe, who was sympathetic towards Aspyn, remembering Aspyn as her only friend. She wonders where she is, remarking Captain Senoc's behavior to be strange as of late. Returning to the past, Senoc was freed from the Sword Academy. Learning after the instructor was fired, it turns out he had lied about his expertise and was actually a hack. Enjoying the peace, she notices someone watching them from the bushes. Senoc approaches, ready to kill, and we see it's one of the bullies. He keeps showing up to learn from the adult Pin, who Aspyn claims is her older sister. But Aspyn declines immediately, telling him to leave. Cade then shows up after learning from his master that 2 wizards from the Imperial Guard are coming to town soon. Count Iset greets these 2 wizards, hosting the both of them. When the servant trips in front of the 2 mages, the black-haired one kills the servant instantly for being incompetent, making the Count gulp nervously. However, right behind them, the brown-haired mage notices a cute little creature smelling the flowers. The brown knight, ranked 7, is Cleary, who is curious about the creature. The creature walks right up to Cleary and tells him he smells nice. However, the black-haired mage named Maseth grabs the creature, and even though the creature tells him to let go, he ignores this, ecstatic to have found research material. We turn to Aspyn, who remembers her best friend. Chloe's father must be a royal knight in this era. She remembers the time Chloe had told her she had originally studied to be just like him, and that the father and daughter even look similar. As Weavy munches on Lepus, Lepus senses the presence of another sacred beast. Aspyn asks who it is, causing Lepus and Weavy to nervously exchange glances. Weavy remembers this beast to like humans and flowers. He then goes into a lesson explaining his medium for magic is snow, and her medium is flowers and plants. However, Aspyn is more concerned about this beast's personality, and Weavy nervously responds it's best not to make her angry. We transition to Cleary, who tells Maseth that the mistreatment of the mythical creature is unethical and against the wizard's code of conduct. Maseth assures everything is alright, and that this creature must be one he's read about in literature before, ones that cause abnormal climate phenomena and can control climate and nature. As the sacred beast yawns, Maseth contemplates their tremendous discovery. What things could they find if they dissected the creature? They might even make history. Maseth reminds Cleary that he's the boss, and won't accept any mutiny as he walks away. Cleary can't help but think Maseth is greedy, since it's against the wizard's code of conduct not to harm newly encountered living beings. This is when Maseth's pupil, Reuben, arrives. He brought a blanket, just in case the creature were to get cold. Cleary thinks of Ruben to be too kind to be Mazeth's pupil, reminding him of his daughter, Chloe. After receiving head pats, Ruben couldn't help but wish Cleary was his teacher. Ruben then goes to deliver the blanket, and the creature tells him he's very kind, which shocks Ruben to hear it talk, as the creature coddles up to the blanket. The sacred beast mentions how Ruben smells like grass, and then takes the appearance of a young girl with flower bulbs on her head. She mentions that she likes humans, and asks for Ruben's help. The sacred beast pokes Ruben, laughing because he's become red like a tomato. Ruben asks her name, and she replies, Flea. Flea has been looking for her friend that looks similar to her. She wants Ruben's help, but when he hears the arrival of someone, he thinks it might be his master Mazeth who has come back early. He tells Flea to transform back because if his teacher sees her like this, he'll for sure start experimenting on her. She changes back and thanks Ruben for helping her. Back in the forest where Pin and Senoc first met, Weavy mentions that Flea is most likely nearby somewhere with a lot of plants. They're having a hard time finding her since she's hiding her powers again. As they continue to search, Aspyn wonders if Senoc has always been so tall. They search some more and Senoc contemplates where Pin is from and why she's looking for the mythical creatures. He asks if she has a last name, and this causes memories to flood in from her childhood. She answers she's a commoner and that only nobility have last names. Senoc then asks what she thinks about marriage between nobility and commoners, and with her sweating and flustered, she says it's fine if they like each other, wondering why he's asking her this. But her answer makes Senoc light up. However, it's very clear to Lepus that she's oblivious. Senoc wants to know more about her, but when she tries to answer, she can only think of her lying in pain and the flames that consumed her household. She lies, saying she's from somewhere far away. They then decide to try searching in town, but all Weavy can think about is what they're having for dinner. Then a man comes running and bumps into Aspyn. We see it's Cleary, and Aspyn immediately catches on to his resemblance to Chloe. Cleary asks if she's hurt, because since he's a wizard, he can heal her. Cleary heals Aspyn and the pain immediately goes away. Cleary then pats Aspyn's head, remarking he has a daughter right around her age. With Cleary saying his goodbyes, Senoc has never seen Aspyn so nervous before. Even ignoring Weavy's prompting for a meal, she tells them to follow the wizard. And seeing Cleary arrive in front of Count Iset's manor, she notices the uniform of the Royal Knights. The man really is Chloe's father, and she recalls Chloe's memory of her father passing away during his travels, feeling the weight of shock from meeting a future dead man. Back at Senoc's place, Cade makes it apparent that with the powerful magical barrier cast around the Count's manor, they must be hiding something. He surmises the sacred beast must be inside the Count's manor. Lepus plops right on Aspyn's head to tell her he did feel a tingle coming from there, but why didn't he say anything sooner? Well, Lepus adds that if Flea really is in there, why didn't she come out and ask for help? He couldn't be certain it was her. With Aspyn now determined to break into the manor, Cade brings up a different problem. There's 2 royal knights staying in 2 different places, so they need to split up. Since Lepus can sense Aspyn even from far away, it makes sense to send him with Weavy and Senoc to keep lookout for wizards, while Aspyn and Cade snoop around the palace. However, Senoc definitely wants to go with Pin. He accepts his duties, but grabbing onto Aspyn, he tells her not to get too close to Cade. Senoc wants her all to himself, making Aspyn wonder why she's getting so flustered. Cade teases, thinking he was close to Senoc too. However, Senoc clearly isn't having it. And with the 2 teams ready, Aspyn makes a leaping start over the gate. Inside the mansion, Cade detects a magical barrier that only those with permission can enter. He can undo it, but he needs to pause the invisibility spell. Maids that pass by mention their exhaustion serving the stationed wizard, talking of rumors of a creature's scream on a nightly basis. With Aspyn and Cade tucked away, she's horrified to think it might be Flea. As they move forward, Cade notes that their invisibility spell may come undone again, due to the strength of the magic barrier. So, Aspyn suggests that if the 2 of them get caught, it's better to do it in projections of their adult forms. Cade had seen her adult form for the first time Lepus had cast that spell on her. It only added to his curiosity. Where did she come from? And why is she searching for the mythical creatures? He really wants to know more about her. Inside Flea's cage, she's asking Ruben to let her out to see the flowers. Despite his fears of disobeying his master, he's willing to bring her out at least to see the garden. So she takes her human form, leading him outside. Outside, Ruben is pleasantly surprised to see Flea's beautiful creation magic. On Team Senoc's side, Senoc is lost in thought, desperately wanting to get closer to Pin, only for Lepus and Weavy to get spotted by Cleary. But Aspyn prepared him for just this situation, so he tells Cleary something. Back in the garden, Ruben is concerned because Flea said she needed to find her friends. She's fine because she knows they're nearby. Right now, she just wants to play with him, only to be discovered by the menacing aura of Ruben's master, Mazeth. Mazeth is at first annoyed that Ruben is playing outside instead of doing his assigned work, only to shift to astonishment and diabolical laughter knowing this girl is the same creature as the sacred beast he captured, and he's ready to dissect her. Ruben pleads with his master to not touch her. However, Mazeth claims Flea to be a monster he can do whatever he pleases with. Mazeth goes to hit Ruben, only to get knocked back by a fully enraged Flea, who shoots her thorns to entangle Mazeth, but this only gets him more excited. Aspyn and Cade arrive at the scene, and it's going out of control. Vines nearly attack Ruben, but Aspyn slashes the vines, saving the day. Ruben then begs Aspyn to save Flea, with Flea giving a menacing stare. Upon seeing Ruben's injuries, Flea is able to calm down. However, Mazeth isn't done fighting. Luckily, Cade is far more talented, blocking Mazeth's spell, and Aspyn gets her opportunity to beat him up. And with that, Aspyn tells them they all need to get out of here, and she'll make sure Ruben's wounds get treated, making Flea super happy. Later, Cleary is curious as to what's happened here, and moreover, who Aspyn truly is. Then, Senoc pops up behind Cleary, assuring Aspyn's plan was a success, but it's not over yet, with Cleary already having figured out Cade is the pupil of the Grand Wizard. After they dispel the projection magic, Cleary threatens to report Aspyn if she doesn't reveal her true identity, so she uses her trump card, declaring her group to be friends of his daughter, Chloe. And with a deep sigh, Cleary tells them they can all talk inside. With Mazeth still out, the table set, and the three sacred beasts relaxing, Aspyn gives the excuse that she lived in Chloe's hometown for a brief period of time, saucing up Cleary, telling him how much his daughter is proud of him being a royal knight. She recognized him because the two look similar, but to add to that, Aspyn also knows Chloe has magic powers, which is the whole reason why Cleary chose for them to live in the secluded town of Lostfield, as he doesn't want others to know about his daughter's magic. However, even with the story adding up, Cleary feels like something is off. It's as if Aspyn is a knight who is familiar with being interrogated. That aside, Aspyn asks Cleary to keep what happened here a secret, and he agrees since he believes Aspyn to be a friend close enough to his daughter to keep her secret. So, he promises to cast a memory fabrication spell on Mazeth. We turn back to Cade discussing with his master their purpose of arriving in this town. The Grand Wizard is searching for anyone interacting strangely with the flow of time, and Cade is supposed to report any findings. However, privately, before Cleary leaves, he tells Cade he should look out for his friends, and it's obvious Cade is somewhat conflicted. Later, Aspyn is surprised to hear Flea knows where the other sacred beast in town is. They apparently got separated because the other beast is attracted to fire and lightning, something Flea isn't too fond of. They have Flea point out the last beast's location on a map. With the location revealed, Aspyn stares in horror, with the flooding memories of her previous childhood and her home that was set ablaze. Senoc notices Aspyn is somewhat distraught, but she tries to play it off. Later that night, Aspyn stares at the moon, unable to sleep. Lepus pays her a visit, knowing the truth of their next location. He warns her to avoid meeting her past self, otherwise she will disappear. Well, guess they'll just have to lure the mythical creature out. She then spots Senoc outside, and watching him glow amongst the beauty of the stars, she blushes, uttering the word, "Captain?" Senoc notices her, and she tries to play off what she said. They're both up right now with a lot on their minds, and knowing Aspyn is going to leave this place to search for more sacred beasts after this one, Senoc asks if he can follow her. She tells him no, but he's desperate to go with her because he likes her. Aspyn gets flustered, losing her mind. Right. Friends. You like me as a friend, right? She says that while nervously slapping Senoc. Thinking about it a bit deeper, she knows once she leaves, the only person who will be nice to Senoc is his maid. Who else might bully him next? The next day, with the sounds of the birds chirping, Aspyn is surprised to see the bags under her eyes in the mirror. She thought she slept well, only to remember Senoc's confession from last night, thinking there's no way Senoc really has feelings for her. Oh, Aspyn. She thinks Senoc must like her like a duckling who has spotted his mother for the first time, thinking he must look up to her because she rescued him. Is it the same way she looked up to the captain? Making her remember a time she watched Captain Senoc button up, but she wants those bad thoughts to get out of her head. In the living room, Senoc once again ponders on Aspyn calling him captain. He asks where Pin's hometown is, with Lepus confidently declaring she used to live in a place called the capital, at least before she died. Jolting up, Senoc wonders what Lepus means. However, the Master of Beasts refuses to divulge more. Out in town, Aspyn gives her goodbyes to Cade. However, he wants to join her in her final mission here. A week earlier, in the Blacknight estate, a man discusses how he perceives Senoc to be a useless brat. That man being the current captain of the Sky Knights, Senoc Blacknight. Hearing his son has progressed, he's decided to go visit Senoc in person. Senoc gets notice that his father is heading his way, but crumbles the notice, telling his mates he claims to have never received the message. Back in town, Aspyn is questioning why Cade wants to come with her, only to learn that he likes her too, shocking Aspyn to hear the future Grand Wizard confessing to her. No, Cade is just a child, just like Senoc. He must like her as a friend, right? However, he immediately tells her no. He could even kiss her right now. But Aspyn can't accept this with the soul of a woman in her 20s. With Cade's status as the Grand Wizard's pupil, he's tagging along for their mission to find the last sacred beast, making Senoc not so happy, with the sparking rivalry between the two boys for Aspyn's heart. With Lepus and Flea enjoying the show, sitting in preparation, Senoc wonders why Aspyn looks sad. She reveals it's because they're heading towards her hometown, and it's not like she doesn't want to be there. She wants to return, but she can't. She wants Senoc to keep it a secret between them, getting both of them blushing. She says it's time to get ready, because they're heading out in 2 days. Badum? Why is her heart beating? 2 days later, Sir Cleary came to visit, questioning where Aspyn is going off to with all that luggage. She announces it's to the Soir estate, and is surprised to hear Cleary is willing to go with her. He'll make an excuse telling Mazeth and Count Iset that he's going on a research trip to gather information about the Soir estate's surroundings. But also, he's heard Duke Blacknight is visiting soon, prompting Senoc to usher Pin that they need to leave immediately. After announcing that Senoc doesn't want to run into his father, Cleary is shocked to learn Senoc is his captain's son. While the three beasts are playing around the luggage, Cleary asks Aspyn and Senoc if they need him to buy them time. And with Duke Blacknight's arrival, Cleary does just that, giving Aspyn the opportunity to have Cade sneak them out. However, Duke Blacknight isn't pleased, discovering his son is missing, so he gives the order for his subordinates to find his son. As the gang makes their way escaping through the sky, Senoc knows his father will be furious, but it's fine since being with Pin, he feels freer than he's ever been. To him, she's his savior, so he always wants to be with her. Outside of town, the gang sits around the campfire, ready to enjoy a meal served by Cade. Cade asks about them leaving early due to the arrival of Duke Blacknight, noting he's only seen the Duke once, who beat people to a pulp without much effort, the kind of beating they think Senoc in no way deserves. Aspyn concludes the Duke must be the reason why Senoc eventually becomes colder in the future. As Cade is about to serve Aspyn food, they hear some rustling, and it seems Cade is going to turn them into their adult forms. And in her adult form, Aspyn is shocked to see the face of her captain. We flash back to where Aspyn had told Cade if they ran into anyone while out there, he'd want her to cast the adult illusion spell on them. But she somehow wasn't expecting Senoc to have the face of Duke Blacknight. Senoc tries to check on her, giving her flashbacks to a different time with him, which made her face red. She tries to play it off, asking for space. Out from the forest comes a guy asking if they're the ones who set up camp here, getting the three wary enough to jump the man. The man shudders as he can sense Aspyn is no ordinary swordsman, so he drops his weapon and apologizes for trespassing. He's just really hungry. Aspyn gives Cade the okay to hand the man some food, but if the man tries any funny business, they'll tie him up and leave him here. While the man eats, Lepus tells the beasts to act like stuffed animals, and upon finishing the meal, Zack reveals himself to be an A-class mercenary. He's apparently on his way back from visiting the Portea estate. He knows the woods near here are dangerous, and his guide he came with actually ran away. Also, he lost his wallet and compass wandering around here. Aspyn knows that mercenaries are hired hands that typically take any and all requests for clients for financial gain. She finds it pretty suspicious he got lost from losing a compass. There's no way an A-class mercenary who's highly experienced would let his things get stolen or lost. Zack then announces he's on his way to the Soir estate, heading there for work. Apparently, there's a lot of chaos there because of an arsonist who has appeared recently. A man in his 30s that's been starting fires in the woods that spread to nearby villages. But most shockingly for Aspyn is that this man had set a mansion of nobility on fire as well. The lords of the surrounding areas are gathering vigilantes and mercenaries to deal with him. Zack ends up leaving after his meal and promises to pay them back next time. And even though Aspyn wasn't expecting to cross paths with him again, that next time turned out to be right at the gate of an estate. After leaving the forest, the gang arrived at a village near the Soir estate. From here, the Soir estate is only 3 more days away. However, at the gate, they're rejected from entering, even with Cade's ID card showing he's the Grand Wizard's pupil. The guard tells them that normally, Cade would be granted entry, but the arsonist is also rumored to be a wizard. Then suddenly, the guard gets notice that Aspyn's gang are suspects, and we now find them surrounded. Aspyn would have no problem dispatching the guards. However, she doesn't want them to be suspected as the arsonist's accomplices. Luckily, Kyle happened to arrive, and he's apparently friends with the guard, General Jacobs. He then saves the day by telling the general that those 3 are with him. But even getting his help, Aspyn recalls not too fond memories when dealing with mercenaries like Kyle. They once hired mercenaries to search for the Grand Wizard when the Emperor was ill. Most of those mercenaries were greedy and backstabbed like it was second nature. At least they fully obeyed paying clients. In this scenario, where she hasn't hired Kyle, Aspyn feels like she cannot trust him. Despite knowing Aspyn doesn't trust him, Kyle tries to gain some credit, explaining right now he's on the hunt for a traitor. He's looking for the person who betrayed his colleague and tried to kill him, with Cade verifying the authenticity of Kyle's words using a truth-checking spell. At dinner, Aspyn tries to ascertain Kyle's true goals, and he reveals it's the arsonist who's actually his backstabbing colleague, leaving Aspyn to wonder at night if this is somehow all connected to the fire that burned down her home. In the boys' room, Cade tells Senoc about Aspyn's powers of time, noting it's unusual that Pin borrows the powers of a mythical creature, a concept that's never before existed, a power of time that could only be used before the point of death. These powers of time have always been dangerous to humans. Knowing this, the 2 boys agree that if Pin's powers go out of control, they'll both step in. 3 days later, they arrived at the Soir estate, only for Aspyn to be upset she can't visit her mother and father. Lightning then flashes out of nowhere, and Kyle explains it's been appearing around here as of late, even on clear days. Lepus explains it's the mythical creature, Laika, who likes both lightning and fire. He's much more powerful than Weavy and Flea, but what makes Aspyn the most nervous is hearing he hates humans. Inside the estate, the maids are searching everywhere for young Lady Aspyn, who's chuckling from her hide-and-seek game. Her father, Count Soir, finds her and picks her up lovingly, asking where her mother is. He sweetly pats his beloved daughter, knowing she must feel sick being cooped up in the house, since the estate's been so dangerous recently, while on the inside, he's frightened and hoping the people he's hired will catch the arsonist soon. He wants to stroll outside with his daughter like he used to. With a knock on the door, the butler announces the arrival of Baron Sahaman, and with her father mentioning the Baron wasn't allowed inside, Aspyn can see how scary her father's face has become. Count Soir sends Aspyn out to go find her mother, but as they talk, Aspyn thinks about entering back to surprise him, only to get frightened, hearing her father decline the Baron for borrowing too much all the time. Count Soir knows Baron Sahaman has a bad gambling habit. If he asks again, he'll be barred from entering the house. And with that, there's a loud door slam. Aspyn goes to check in on her father, but she only sees Baron Sahaman cursing at her father under his breath. Staring at the estate, The current Aspyn remembers the loving memory of her parents, but now, Kyle begins his search for the arsonist. Aspyn's group begins their search for Laika. She contemplates if there's a connection between Laika and the arsonist, given Laika's affinity for fire. Senoc notices her exhaustion from thinking, but suddenly her face gets red. However, she denies the cause being Senoc's handsome gaze. She then spots a familiar man. Oh, it's her uncle, Baron Sahamin. But who was that other person with him? This gives Aspyn an uneasy feeling. She always remembered her uncle and father getting along well, so why is her uncle walking off looking so upset? Aspyn then grabs Senoc, and she heads after them. Elsewhere, with Flea and Cade playing together, she spots Laika. Laika plops himself nearby, and with humans spotting him, he tries to strike with lightning. But a barrier protects the men, which was casted by Cade. Laika comes out hissing and growling until he spots Flea. However, Cade reaches out as another bolt of lightning strikes. Still tailing the Baron and the mysterious man, Aspyn recalls once again about the good relationship her uncle had with her father, but always thought it was strange how her uncle would always leave so quickly, and mentioned how small their estate was. The Baron and the man approached close to them, so Aspyn pulls Senoc close, telling him to put his hands on the wall. And when the Baron walks by, Aspyn's plan to fake make out with Senoc works, as the Baron thinks of them as nothing but stupid kids. Paying the kids no mind, the mysterious man and the Baron confirm the plan will be executed in 3 days' time. And with that, Aspyn is astonished to hear her uncle wants the mansion burned down in flames with no witnesses or evidence left. With the image of her home burning down in her mind, Aspyn bites her lip, discovering her uncle was the culprit all along. She just kept remembering how close her uncle and father were, only to have her nostalgia shattered by her uncle laughing about taking the Soir family fortune. Aspyn clenches her fist in anger, ready to break his legs or kill him right now. But then she remembers her captain telling her he admired her righteousness, giving her the sensibility to calm down. But now having a clear visual on the arsonist and connecting the dots to her past, she won't let history repeat itself. If she changes the past though, what would happen to her? Would that mean with her parents not dying, she'd never join the Sky Knights? Would she keep living unscarred? Would she never meet Senoc? The gang reconvenes at night, exhausted. Kyle returns, and after Aspyn has Cade cast a vow spell on him that creates a magic unbreakable oath, one that would cause Kyle's heart to stop beating if he broke it, she reveals that they found the arsonist, making Kyle ask where he is with a killer expression. He wants to make the arsonist pay for his wrongdoing. That night, Aspyn reflects on her plan to have Cade use magic to record the arsonist's crimes right before he commits them. Kyle ultimately accepted, but still questioned what Pin's motives were. She knows by changing the future again, she may have to pay a price. Then suddenly, Cade comes into the room, revealing his interaction with Laika. Recalling that explosive lightning earlier in the afternoon, Cade was quite impressed. Laika's tail acts as a lightning rod, so he doesn't get hurt by his own lightning. However, Flea is worried because she sees an injury on his tail, meaning someone else was the cause of it. Laika was upset with Flea for siding with a human, especially a wizard one at that. The human who tried to capture and murder him was also a wizard, and after drawing more lightning to himself, Laika disappeared. But enough about this afternoon. Cade is more worried about Aspyn's distraught look. Getting closer to her, he suddenly reverts to his childlike form due to exhaustion. Aspyn checks his head and can feel a little fever coming off of him. Aspyn tells Cade not to push himself so hard, and after she tells him it worries her, his face gets flush red, making Aspyn worry even more. After cooling down, he makes the excuse that wizards tend to run hot. It was just a temporary thing, and transformed back, and outside of the room, his heart beats just thinking about his times with Aspyn. In a restaurant, the gang sits under a magic barrier where all sound is blocked and the mythical creatures are made invisible. Aspyn worries that Cade might be using too much magic, but he assures her he's fine, because wizards are better at using their magic when there's something to focus on, and right now, he's focusing on her. However, Senoc isn't too happy with Cade's smooth talk. The team contemplates on how to get Laika to their side, considering Laika seems to hate humans even more now. but Flea still wants another opportunity to meet with him personally. They want to lure Laika out of the city since his powers could easily start a fire. Cade's job was to set the trap, while Aspyn's side was in charge of luring him. She asked Lepus what kind of things Laika liked, and the sacred bunny confidently answered he had no idea, proving to still be the least helpful. But while Lepus deals with punishment, Flea brings up Laika's love for lightning and fire, questioning if there's a place in the city with lots of fire. Aspyn takes them to the smithy, and of course, next to the fire lies Laika. Elsewhere, Baron Sahamen is taking his anger out on commoners. He reflects on how his brother, Count Soir, said he wasn't going to lend him any more money, how he was embarrassed right in front of the Countess. With his anger swelling, he asks the arsonist if he can start the job sooner. At Cade's location, he gets the signal from Pin that Flea is luring Laika to the specified location, so they head to the place where the trap is set. Hiding in the forest, Aspyn mentions how she's been wanting to return home. Well, Senoc's place she treated like home anyways. Senoc began thinking if they got married, that's how they would live, but he holds himself back from saying that aloud. This occurs while Flea tries to convince Laika to change his mind about the humans. After all, she was kidnapped once, but a kind human saved her. However, Laika accuses Flea of being brainwashed by the humans, as he could see all along Aspyn hiding nearby. Beginning his assault, Cade was ready to counter. It seems Laika's lightning is useless, since Cade also included a lightning rod in the cage as well. Aspyn walks up, and even with Laika not wanting to talk to her, she offers him a chance to get revenge on the human who injured him. It's still not enough, so to earn his trust, Aspyn releases him from his cage. However, he's still not going to trust a human. But Aspyn lightly mouths, telling him she's already dead. So how's about not counting dead humans as humans? Laika was still surprised they convinced Flea to join their side, considering she used to hate humans just as much as he did, but as long as they help him get revenge, he'll be willing to side with Aspyn for now. Everyone then begins running over to Aspyn's side, but with Laika's tail throbbing, lightning strikes a tree, even though he didn't mean to. After putting out an exhausting fire, Aspyn's glad to finally have all the sacred beasts in one place. But in her heart, Aspyn is antsy knowing tomorrow is the day the arsonists set Count Soir's manor on fire. However, heading back to town, she's horrified to find the entire estate already on fire. Kyle comes running in and spots the criminal laughing as he's setting things ablaze. Oh no, the direction he's running in, a fire that's spread to the Count's manor. With Kyle calling her over, Aspyn can only stand in fear with her heart beating. Senoc runs over to her, trying to snap her out of it. Aspyn then utters the word, "Captain?" And seeing Senoc's face, she comes back to her senses. She tries to think of how she can save both this city and the Count's manor. Hearing from Zack that he spotted a nobleman colluding with the arsonist, Aspyn clenches her fists knowing it's her uncle. She tells Zack to run ahead and she'll catch up. She has to do something important on her end. Aspyn desperately wants to go to her parents. Cade can put out fires using his magic, especially if it's the manor that Aspyn wants done. However, the city would be done for. Laika then reveals the surrounding fires are things he can put out right away. Since Aspyn has a contract with Lepus, she can use Laika's powers, and with his tail injured, he can't do it as efficiently alone, so he needs Aspyn to do it if she wants to save this place. Now they have a way to save both the manor and the city. Aspyn thinks back to asking Lepus if she could run into her past self if she was invisible, but he explains that wouldn't work, since their souls would still meet. In front of everyone, she asks Lepus if all she has to do is avoid running into that girl. She knows the moment she met Senoc, the future had already changed, something that Cade is shocked to hear. But without any delay, Aspyn tells Senoc and Cade to handle Soir Manor. She'll deal with the city fire. Cade questions this, knowing the nobles should be able to take care of themselves and the city is so big. Doesn't she need help here? In a solemn tone, she responds the reason is because her parents are going to die today. She knows Cade must have understood somewhat of her conversation with Lepus a moment ago. The object that has the power of time is not an object, but a person. She tells them, "I am a time traveler who came from the future." And with this being the hometown of where her parents die, she begs the boys to save them for her, because she can't go due to her situation. Without hesitation, Senoc and Cade agree, with Senoc passing by saying he's on her side forever. Flea drags Weavy over to Aspyn, because the snow will probably help. And now, the mission to save the town begins. Leica has to quickly teach Aspyn how to use magic, since Lepis never did. He puts her head to Weevy's, and his powers course through her. She uses Weevy's power to make it snow all over the city, preventing the fire from spreading. Although, noticing there's no way she'd reach the manor. The current fire can't be put out with the snow, since it was started with magic fire, so she uses Leica's powers next. And absorbing all of the fire, she puts her trust in Senoc and Cade to save her parents. Finally saving the city, she falls exhausted next to the two sacred beasts. But it's not over yet. With her spotting her uncle, it's time to make him pay. Going back 30 minutes earlier, Cade and Senoc prepared to enter the manor. While making his way through the burning manor, Cade can't help but feel they've taken off more than they can chew. Although, with Senoc telling him to hurry up, Cade wonders why he seems so calm. Senoc definitely feels the burn, but he'd burn his life away to make Pin's wishes come true. They eventually find Count and Countess Soir, and clear a way for the two to safely get out. But the Countess freaks out, unable to find Aspyn. Lepis calls this the law of equivalent exchange. By saving the lives of those meant to die, the price must be paid. Knowing Aspyn is in there coughing in the fire, the Count tries to go in, only to be stopped by his servants. Cade knows the Count's daughter is the Pin from this timeline. However, Senoc is prepared to go in and save her. Even knowing his death might be the price, he wouldn't mind dying with Pin. Plants suddenly arise amongst the fire, and Flea grabs onto Lepis, sucking out his energy so she can keep the building from falling with her magic. Cade also opens a way for Senoc using his magic, and even though Lepis warns Senoc saving Aspyn may cause him to lose something important, Senoc just ignores it and goes in anyways. Lepis uses magic butterflies to lead Senoc to Aspyn, and he's happy to have found her. With everyone worried Aspyn won't make it out, Senoc comes through, with her in his arms. And Count Soir thanks him for saving his daughter. The city is saved, Baron Sahaman gets caught, and so does the arsonist. And with Aspyn ready to rest, it snowed all day long. Countess Soir thanks the boys for saving her daughter, offering the two to stay over and have dinner with them. They accept, not wanting to disrespect Pin's mother, so they spend the night in the annex. The next day, during mealtime, Cade once again questions Senoc's decision to jump in that fire. What if he died? But he didn't, and he desires to live like Aspyn from now on. He wants to be someone who's not afraid to save others, even if he gets hurt in the process. And if he becomes a man he can be proud of, he'll propose to her, which gets Cade to choke a little. Cade teases him, telling Senoc she'd love that. Love to run away from that is. Still hoisting the established rivalry between these two. With dinner set, Senoc knows Pin would have loved to have been here, but Lepis already told the boys her soul would disappear if she came in contact with her past self. Little Aspyn tugs onto Cade's sleeve, making Senoc panic internally. And with that, she runs over to hold her mother tightly, unable to thank the boys due to her shyness. The boys say their goodbyes to the parents, but Senoc couldn't get the thought out of his head that Pin should have been the one to accept their words of gratitude instead. But before they leave, Aspyn gives a thankful curtsy, saying she won't forget them for saving her. The Soirs tell them they can visit any time. However, that's not enough for Senoc. He gets the parents' permission to speak with Aspyn privately, while Cade brings our Aspyn over to her parents. Cade tells the Soirs that this girl is a colleague of his who told them to come save everyone at the manor. And as Aspyn bows, her heart beats, seeing her mother and father again, all while getting a heartfelt thanks from them. Hearing she was the one who courageously put out the fires in the city, they thank Aspyn for saving their estate and hope their daughter can be like her someday, bringing Aspyn to tears. Back at base, even though she could stay longer, Aspyn knows it's time to leave. If she stays any longer, she'll get more attached. Kyle enters, thanking her for everything, and hands her a pass that she can use to get help from his mercenary group, White Bird Troop, anytime. Then, they go their separate ways from Kyle, heading back on a carriage provided by the Soir family, with Aspyn's loving thoughts of her parents on her mind. The gang gets out right before entering the city, so Cade can stop exhausting his usage of magic. Cleary suddenly appears with no time to explain. He needs them to hide, but with a sword flying at Aspyn, she deflects it instinctively, catching the praise from Duke Blacknight. He's pissed his son ignored his summons, And even with Aspyn drawing her blade, he gives Senoc an ultimatum. Come with him obediently, or he'll kill the other 2 kids in Cleary. Aspyn tries to stop him, but Senoc accepts his fate, heading out with his father and the vice captain. Then, Cade has to go back to his master, and Cleary had to be somewhere else. Aspyn was left with just the sacred beasts. Returning to his master, Cade asks about the master's reasoning for searching for the time traveler and the mythical creature. However, after learning when the previous time traveler and creature was discovered by the Grand Wizard's master's master, and both dissected for science to death, Cade keeps quiet about what he's learned about Aspyn and Lepus. The next day, where Senoc was confined, his father tells him if he comes back to the main castle, he'll take back his order to destroy the city. Senoc wonders why now is his father paying attention to him, but simply put, the Duke thinks Senoc is useful now. Senoc is conflicted, knowing he only got stronger because of Pin, but if he doesn't follow his father, the house that he lived in with Pin will be burned to the ground. He doesn't want that, because he wants to live in that house with her again one day. Agreeing to his father's request, the Duke gives Senoc 2 days to prepare his things. Back at the house, Cade learns Aspyn has to leave. Lepus simply warned her she had to go, but didn't answer why. It would make sense for her to leave, especially having gathered all the sacred beasts. She's already dead, just borrowing her current body with Lepus's powers. Besides, even if she stayed, there's no way she'd be able to watch Senoc grow up to become the captain. Then, Senoc suddenly appears in a fancy outfit. Aspyn rushes over to him, worried about how he's been. He's fine now and announces he's going to the capital, so Aspyn invites Senoc on a picnic. The 2 sit side by side eating sweets together. With him staring at her though, it's hard for her to say what she wants to say. She then mentions on days like these, there's someone who always comes to mind. Someone she probably won't be able to see ever again. That person was stoic, but kind and benevolent. All while we see Senoc violently interrogating a man who might have seen Aspyn Soir still alive. Senoc is astonished to hear Aspyn is planning on leaving, so with a little help from Weavy, he asks Aspyn to marry him. Aspyn's heart thuds as Senoc expresses his feelings towards her, but there's no way she could accept the captain's feelings, especially knowing their actual age difference. With tears in his eyes, she rejects him, but he holds her hand, wondering why. He can't imagine being with anyone else but her. She pushes him away. She needs to get out of here to think about this more clearly. Leaving the boy with the fallen bouquet, Cade intervenes, saying he'll help Aspyn as long as she chooses him. She didn't know she'd end up in this situation, but felt terrified for the future, knowing she wouldn't be in either of their lives. She readies a blade, using Weavy's magic, telling the boys they need to beat her because she'd only like someone stronger than her. With the 2 boys standing nervously, she tells them she'll beat them so badly they'll never confess to her again. The 2 boys sit, sadly defeated. Senoc is definitely sad knowing he might never see Aspyn again. However, Aspyn promises to meet him again, so that way he won't cry. But she won't allow him to propose to her. With the 2 boys making their leave, Lepus is ready to tell Aspyn the price they're going to pay for having saved the Soirs back at their manor. The price of them saving young Aspyn is that they'll both lose the memories of the current one. Not just them, everyone will forget her. And even though it makes her sad, she accepts it. After all, she's already dead. She feels this is unfair, with her being the only one who will remember the time she spent with Senoc and Cade. Cade came back to warn Aspyn she needs to leave this city, because his master, the Grand Wizard, suspects the time traveler is somewhere here. This means she's in a dangerous situation, and could potentially become an experimental subject. However, it's not necessary, when she explains that everyone is going to forget her soon enough. Cade flashes back to Lepus's ominous warning, catching on that it's because they saved her younger self. He then swears to become the Grand Wizard to find a way to never forget her. Then suddenly, the knights arrive with Sir Cleary captured. They must have shown up after hearing of the existence of mythical creatures. Despite her worries, Cade promises to protect Cleary and ushers Aspyn to leave. Panting out of breath, she finds herself at the same pool of water she first opened her eyes at. Lepus announces it's their time to leave, with the location of the next mythical creature found. The last one isn't in this time period. After they teleport, Aspyn will be given the adult form of her choice. But with no explanation, Aspyn slowly awakens on a city street. staring in horror, waking up to a dead person. Then, a sword dripped in blood. The sword that belongs to none other than Captain Senoc of the Imperial Sky Guard. And at this moment, she realized this is the time period after she died. Wow, what an epic end to part 1. Such an exciting story. Subscribe to my channel so you can stay tuned for when part 2 comes out. For now though, watch this next video and also follow me on X. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.